It was one of those moments that could change a life forever, but neither the exhausted single father nor his shy little daughter had any idea that destiny was watching them from across the hotel lobby that day. The billionaire was already on his way out, his expression cold, his stride fast and decisive, his heart locked behind the armor of pride and fury. But then, a tiny, trembling voice rose above the noise, soft, pure, and filled with words he never expected to hear again. Words in Arabic, from a little girl who shouldn't have known them. Words that froze him where he stood. If you believe in the ripple of love, that one act of kindness, one innocent voice, can change everything, then take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. This story is for hearts that still believe in miracles hidden in ordinary days. Rain lashed against the glass doors of the Royal Al Mansur Hotel in Dubai, the city glittering outside in restless neon. Inside, James Harris clutched his worn-out backpack, holding his daughter Emily's small hand tightly. His clothes were slightly crumpled, his shoes wet, and his eyes carried the sleepless shadow of a man who had long forgotten what rest felt like. Once, James had been a music teacher back in Manchester. But after losing his wife to illness 3 years ago, life had turned into a storm he could barely stand against. His savings were gone, his career had crumbled under grief, and now he was working odd jobs across continents, whatever could feed his little girl. He had come to Dubai with hope, a desperate hope. A charity foundation, rumored to be funded by an anonymous Arab billionaire, had invited him to demonstrate a community music program for underprivileged children. If approved, he would get a small grant, enough to build something new. Enough to live with dignity again. But things hadn't gone well. The man funding the project, Sheikh Khalid al-Rashid, was not impressed. He had left the room halfway through James's presentation, muttering something about Western idealism and pointless sentiment. And now James stood at the hotel lobby, watching the man stride away, surrounded by bodyguards and assistants. The billionaire's white robe flowed behind him like a flag of authority, his face carved in stern elegance, his reputation for temper legendary. For a moment, James wanted to run after him, to beg for one more chance. But what was the use? His voice would drown in the marble silence of power and pride. Emily tugged at his hand. "Daddy," she whispered, "why is he so angry?" James knelt beside her, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. "Sometimes people forget how to listen, sweetheart," he said softly. "But that's okay. We'll find another way." He forced a smile, though his heart was cracking. As Khalid neared the revolving door, one of his assistants murmured something about the next meeting. The billionaire's patience was thin. He had no time for idealists who wanted to teach music to street kids. "They need food, not songs," he had said earlier, his voice sharp with the arrogance that wealth often builds. His own childhood had been one of discipline, silence, and distance, a childhood without music. But just as he was about to step into the car waiting outside, something unexpected happened. A soft, trembling melody floated through the air, faint but unmistakable. A child's voice, humming the old Arabic lullaby Ya Layli Ya Ain. Khalid froze mid-step. The world seemed to hold its breath. That song, he hadn't heard it in 20 years. His mother used to hum it to him when he was little, long before she died. Slowly, he turned. Across the lobby, a small girl with golden brown hair sat on the floor beside her father's suitcase, singing shyly into the silence. Her Arabic was pure, her tone heartbreakingly sweet. Even her pronunciation carried the rhythm of desert winds and bedtime memories. People turned to watch. The billionaire's guards looked confused. And Khalid, the man known for his fury, simply stood still, something deep inside him breaking open like an old wound touched by light. When the song ended, the girl looked up, startled by the sudden silence around her. "Did I do something wrong, Daddy?" she asked. But James couldn't answer. His eyes were filled with tears. He didn't know where Emily had learned that song. She must have heard it from one of the hotel cleaners earlier, a kind old Syrian woman who had smiled at her in the hallway. The child's heart had caught the melody instantly, the way innocent hearts catch love. Khalid walked toward them slowly. Each step was measured, his expression unreadable. The lobby's hum faded into the rhythm of his footsteps. James stood quickly, nervous and unsure, his mind racing with apology and confusion. "I'm sorry, sir," he stammered, She didn't mean to, but Khalid raised a hand, silencing him. His eyes were locked on Emily. "Where did you learn that song?" His deep, accented voice trembled slightly, the first sign of emotion anyone had heard from him in years. The little girl looked up at him, unafraid. "The nice lady with the scarf taught me," she said. "She said it's a song from home." Khalid's gaze softened. Home. The word hit him like a prayer. He knelt, his expensive robes brushing the marble, and for the first time in decades, he smiled, a small, fragile smile that looked like it had been buried under years of dust. "You sang it perfectly," he whispered. "Just like my mother used to." James stood in silence, watching as his daughter bridged a world he could never reach. Something was changing. Not just in the room, but in the air itself. The billionaire's anger had melted into something unspoken, something that glimmered faintly like hope. Khalid turned to James then, his expression calm but searching. "You are the music teacher, yes?" "Yes, sir," James replied carefully. "James Harris. I was just leaving." "Not yet," Khalid said, gesturing to the nearby lounge. "Sit." What followed was a conversation neither of them would ever forget. For hours, James spoke, not as a beggar pleading for funds, but as a father speaking from the heart. He told Khalid about how music had helped his daughter cope with her mother's death, how it gave children hope even in poverty, and how rhythm could speak where words could not. Khalid listened quietly, his eyes distant. At one point, Emily began softly humming again, and the billionaire's face turned away, as if to hide the emotion in his eyes. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "When I was a boy," he said, "I wanted to learn the oud. My father forbade it. He said music makes the heart weak." Perhaps he was wrong. The storm outside had stopped by the time they finished talking. And in that quiet, Khalid made a decision. He stood, extended his hand to James, and said the words that would rewrite both their lives. "Tomorrow morning, bring your plans. I will fund your program. Not just here, everywhere." James blinked, stunned. "Sir, I don't know how to thank you." Khalid looked down at Emily and smiled again. "Thank her. She reminded me what strength really sounds like." The next months were a whirlwind. The Harmony for Hope Foundation launched across the Middle East, bringing music programs to refugee children, orphans, and struggling families. Videos of Emily singing the Arabic lullaby became viral online, earning the nickname the Voice of Peace. James became its director, traveling between countries, spreading not just lessons but light. But what touched him most was not fame or funding, it was Khalid's transformation. The once furious billionaire began visiting the schools personally, sitting among children, sometimes even playing the oud himself. The sound of laughter replaced the silence that had ruled his mansion for years. He told James once, "That day, I was leaving not just the hotel, but life itself. I was done with people, with emotions. But your daughter's song reminded me that my mother's love still lives somewhere inside me. I thought I was unbreakable. But sometimes, breaking is what saves you." Time passed. One evening, under a crimson sunset in a desert village, James watched as Khalid lifted Emily into his arms, laughing as she taught him another tune. For the first time in so long, James felt peace. He looked at the children dancing, their voices rising into the golden air, and he realized, love had rippled out from one small moment in a hotel lobby, touching thousands of hearts. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe, because you never know whose life might change through your small act of love. And before we end, tell us in the comments, do you believe that one innocent heart can heal another?